it for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire, coming to us from Denver, Colorado, the home of where that moment in our intro took place when Ray Bourque hoisted the cup there over at the, what is it now, the Ball Arena? Pierre, is that what they call it?
Yes.
It's the Ball Arena. That's right. It was Pepsi Center then. And Jimmy Murphy here on another edition of On Campus Friday. Shortly, we will be joined, Pierre, by the commissioner of the Hockey East, Mr. Steve Metcalf. Looking forward to talking to him. And, of course, he is part of the Friendship Four. He has 2 schools going over there this year, and he will be there with us. Has already offered to be a personal tour guide for us, Pierre. So looking forward to the advice he gives us and the tips. But it was great time. Actually, it was with our good friend Sarah Stanton today, Pierre, over at the Quincy Chamber of Commerce breakfast. Quincy, as I told you, is a city just outside of Boston, for those that don't know. And the commissioner, the executive director of the NHLPA and former Boston mayor and U.S. Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh, was there. And Pierre, he was great. Blew the roof off with his, he did a Q&A and he had everybody laughing and clapping. It was a really, really insightful experience into what it's like, being a mayor or being the Secretary of Labor. It was good stuff. He said to say hello to you. So we will have him on the podcast in the near future for sure.
Did you broker a peace deal between the NHL and the NHLPA? Because the picture you sent out was very sharp.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, my friend. I had the suit on for you.
Good.
One thing he did say actually in the speech was that he's blessed to come in right now into this, because this is probably the most harmonious situation there's been over the last few years that we've seen, at least here between the NHL and the NHLPA in over 20 years. So he's excited about that. He said, but there's still plenty of issues they got to iron out. And, I didn't get into details with it.
I'm going to give you one issue, and it starts with $1 billion.
And that's where I was. We don't script this here.
I'm going to give you one issue, and it's just one.
Yeah,
it's $1
It's
billion.
a big one. It's a big one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's gonna, and just so we're going a little inside baseball here, just so everybody understands, expansion fees right now are not part of hockey related revenue.
So it's all to the owners.
It's all to the owners.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's going to be.
I can guarantee that's going to be an issue, Pierre. I didn't get into that with him.
It's only one. It's going to be the first issue.
It's going to be the first at the front.
Issue.
Yep. I think so. And, one thing he brought up too, Pierre, and I've been writing on it a bit this week, and you and I have been going back and forth, is just kind of helping to facilitate more Russian players coming over. With everything that's going on there, it's been tough. There's a lot of tension. So I think that's something that he wants to work with the NHL on and help those players. But Pierre, it was interesting. I know it's not a hockey related story, but it was interesting because I never realized that he would be in this position. So did you ever see, what was the show with Kiefer Sutherland, where he's the guy when there's a State of the Union address, designated survivor. That's what they call it.
No, I apologize. I did not.
When there's a State of the Union address, they have what they call a designated survivor. And if there's any terrorist attack, God forbid, or anyone dies during it, whether it's the vice president or the president, this person goes into that position. He would take it over and the transfer of power would go to him. Well, I think it was right before he became the executive director of the NHLPA. He'd actually already taken the job and he was just riding out his last few months. There was a State of the Union address and they said, hey, by the way, you're the designated survivor. And they had to fly him to some remote location. He couldn't tell us where. It's very top secret. But he said, yeah, I'm sitting here just hoping I'm going to make it to the NHLPA, let alone become the president of the United States.
The designated survivor. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. One of the things we're talking about hockey and business.
Yep.
Business of hockey in Montreal is getting tougher every day with all these injuries now. My goodness gracious.
I wanted to get into that with you, Pierre. I saw
Matheson's traveling, but he did not play the last 40 minutes of that game.
Yeah.
And then you obviously got Gouli. Now, I was surprised there was no penalty on that call. Adrian Kempe got him good. And they're going to say he got him from the side, but he was a defenseless player, and he got hammered. And in Montreal, where he went into the boards, Jimmy, there's no give there. Those are, it's like hitting concrete, the boards right where he got in. So there was no penalty, and you could see, like, he showed a lot of guts to play the rest of the game, but it was definitely on the left side. So I don't know if it's a collarbone, I don't know if it's a shoulder, I don't know if it's potentially a rib, but it's an upper body injury, and something happened to Caden Gooley. That's not good. So Logan Mailloux gets called up, which I think is a positive thing for Montreal and for the kid.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too negative. As you know, I did the post-game show last night in Montreal. I'm concerned about a couple things. Entries on the power play, way too predictable. Everything's up their right side, the opposition's left. Mm-hmm. You could see LA was prepared for it. So they got to get out of that. That's a coaching move, okay? That's coaching. Yep. The second thing is, and this pains me to say it, Kirby Doc's not there. And they got to be patient with him. It's really apparent. Last night, it was really apparent.
I'm glad you brought that up here quickly before you go to your next point. How do you find that balance of being patient? And
you may have to drop him down deeper in the lineup. You got to get him off the first power play.
You have to.
And I'm not I like the kid as a player and as a person. I really do. He's suffered some horrific injuries the last few years. It's going to take time for him to get back. And then the third thing to me is, you got to start on time. You got to start on time, Jimmy.
Especially when you get a team that came in.
Jimmy, they're not starting on time, and that's no good. And I don't know if that's something they do in their morning skates. I don't know if that's something that's going on in their dressing room. I don't know if they're disjointed. You know, some guys listen to music, some not. They got to figure this out. They have to figure this out, or they're going to have a tough year.
Pierre, is one thing, and I noticed it as well when I got up early before I went down to that breakfast today, and I'm watching a lot of the highlights and going back, looking at that game specifically. And then I heard our good friend Mitch Melnick just bring it up about an hour ago on his show. You could tell something was off with Slafkovsky. And of course, he was hurt today in practice. He didn't practice. So, and one of the things, like I thought, Mitch pointed out too, and I'm sure you agree, is he wasn't getting in there in the corners and creating space for the other guys to enable the cycle game. And he just hasn't been doing that from the get-go. So, as Mitch pointed out, or, speculated, maybe it's something he's been battling. Maybe it just didn't happen last night. Maybe this is something that's been going on, preventing him from playing that, because that was something he did really well last season as he progressed.
Yeah. Sometimes guys forget what made him good too. And so, I know there's a lot of kumbaya that goes on in the Montreal room because of the way the approach is from the coaching staff. Sometimes you need a butt kicker too. Sometimes you got to go in there and get everybody's attention. Now, I don't know if that happened after last night, because it's a quick turnaround. You got to travel. You got to play the Islanders, who are coming off a road trip that wasn't too bad. And then you got to come home and you got to play the Rangers, which is not easy. Rangers are smoking hot right now. Oh, yeah. And everything seems to be going, including Artemi Panarin. I mean, 3 goals, 1 assist last night against Detroit. And he, you know what, Jimmy? He's shooting the puck a lot more this year, Panarin, so far. But he's dominating the puck. It's not just he's shooting it and making plays. He's dominating the puck. He didn't do that a lot last year. He did a fair bit, but not as much as he's done so far.
A great game from Jonathan Quick last night too, as well.
Quicky's good. I mean, he wants to prove a point. He wants to prove a point. Yeah, Jonathan wants to prove a point. He can still play. And you got to remember too, and I know you know this, but this is for the fans out there that don't follow it as close. He's from there. It's not like he's from L.A. He's not. He's from Connecticut. He's from right outside New York City. These are home games for him. He grew up cheering for this team. You know, he went to Avon Old Farms before he went to UMass Amherst, Jimmy's alma mater. I mean, he desperately wanted to be part of this when it wasn't working out in L.A., and that's why he left Vegas to go to New York.
Yep. For sure. It was his dream to play for the Rangers. I've heard him say it many times. Pierre, another thing before we get to our good friend Steve Metcalf here. Oh, we do have Steve, so we'll bring it up after. I want to talk about the Capitals, because I'm seeing a lot of parallels between them and the Flames. Steve Metcalf, the Hockey East Commissioner, joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network, and AKA, from what I'm told, the Mayor of Belfast, the Lord Mayor of Belfast.
Yeah, you got to have the Lord Mayor in front of it.
That's right. I saw the picture. Game of Thrones Museum there. It was brilliant. How you doing, my friend?
Good. Nice to see you guys.
Yes. Happy to have you on. We're really looking forward to it. I was with Sarah Stanton today, as I was telling everybody, and the excitement level is building up and ramping up. I'm sure it's the same for you and all the schools involved.
Yeah. You guys you're going to really experience something special when you go over there. They've just done a fantastic job. They started a pro team over there. They've had some real success on the ice, but the community has supported it. They've really become hockey fans, and it's really unique when it first started. But now they've done, I've lost track of how many tournaments they've done.
16.
They've had women's games over there. They're going to start a women's tournament. I mean, the hospitality is just unmatched. So it's always fun to go over there. It feels like I know my way around town. That's why Sarah's giving me grief. We were over there maybe a month ago. we get done dinner, and we're talking about like, hey, where are we going to go? And I rattled off about 6 pubs that I thought would be a good choice. And she's like, all right, we'll just go where this guy said.
That's great.
Hey, Steve, I got to ask you, you've got 2 teams going over, Merrimack with Scotty Bork as a coach, and obviously Jay Pantolfo on Boston University. Do you have to do anything scheduling-wise because they're going overseas that makes it a little different in Hockey East play?
Yeah. So over the years, I guess it's been a combination of mostly league games. And so, if you're so fortunate that your 2 opponents are playing each other 3 times that year, which isn't always the case, you can do a situation where you have, one at Merrimack, one at BU, and one at Belfast, which is what we did this year. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of, levels it out for the coaches, if you will. And so that's worked pretty good. But I think one of the things, that's gotten talked a little bit more now is making them non-conference games. League games are obviously so important. And there was some, anxiousness by some about, taking a league game and playing it over there. But, I'm really, at the end of the day, I'm not really sure it really matters that much to the coaches.
Do you take us back when you first went over there and first time Hockey East schools participated? What was that like when you saw just the looks on the kids' faces and everybody involved and just watching them experience this and learn from it?
Well, I will say, because of the, the game times, so they're going to have that, early game on Friday. And so, which is obviously, shown in the morning over here, which is, it's interesting. You watch 2 hockey games before mid-afternoon over here. But so for that first game, they've done a great job of getting the community and a bunch of kids from the schools. And so a day or 2 prior, after one of the practices, the teams will go to a local school and they'll do kind of like a tutorial, if you will, on an ice hockey, and then the kids will come and cheer for that team. And so you've just got tons of kids cheering, and they're cheering like, if you make a pass, they cheer. You score, they cheer. The roughing, they cheer. And so the atmosphere, even for that first game is just fantastic because you got all this, kids going crazy in the stands.
The NHL's explored going into Germany, going into Sweden, going into Finland, going into the Czech Republic. Any thoughts maybe outside of Ireland for Hockey East to maybe take their game on the road to somewhere else? Yeah, Pierre, that's a really good question.
Obviously it's a great tournament. Like I said, the hospitality is fantastic. It's pretty easy to get to, quite frankly, from Boston. Direct flight in, I think 5.5 hours. So if you going west or going to Belfast, it's kind of the same. But there's no hockey players there, to recruit. And so, yes, I've had some conversations with some folks about, hey, might we take a series and go somewhere whether potentially, some really good hockey players.
Yeah.
One of the challenges is simply that in some cases, they get a little anxious about their kids leaving to come play college. Yeah. So although I'm biased, but I don't think they should worry about that as much as they do. I understand when they're concerned, that they might have a local kid from their hometown who could be a superstar on the local team. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden he's over at, BU playing hockey,
Yeah. Fair point.
Switching over just to strictly Hockey East here, Steve. One thing, like I was talking to you on the phone earlier about that, I just interviewed James Hagens for a story I'm going to be doing this week, and I was thinking about it. It's like that's potentially 2 straight number 1 picks out of the Hockey East at the NHL draft. What does that mean to you as a commissioner of the Hockey East to see that?
Well, it's obviously it's great. I mean, I think we're always going to want top teams, really competitive teams. We think we've got a really strong league, top to bottom. And the teams are going to attract the quality and level of play that we have, is always going to attract people. But when you add on top of it some first rounders or potentially, first picks, you've got some superstar, power that's going to draw people to the games. And so, I'm confident saying, Celebrini last year, BU had a great team. But there were certainly some folks that were very interested in seeing what all the hype was about with Celebrini, which was, well deserved. So, I think it's nice to have that kind of top end talent. And we've got a bunch of kids in that category this year, and same as we had last year. And then, but then you couple it with, really quality teams. And so it's the best combination I think to have, but it's fun watching these young superstars. I mean, it's just some of them, they're just so ready for the big stage. And, there's just no, it's not like a warm-up period. They just get right after it.
Yeah.
Very true. I agree 100%. Any potential for expansion of Hockey East?
No, we're pretty good. We've I guess we've got a group of schools and teams, and we talk about this every year, and we're pretty comfortable with where we are. I don't think there's a natural that would make sense to add. We do have a brief conversation about it every year, and right now we're pretty content, and I think everyone's pretty happy, and we've tried to kind of raise the bar together in what we're doing, and I think we've had some success with that. So, but it's also a situation. The way we've done our schedule is, we do a 24 game schedule, and so it's an unbalanced schedule. But the 24 games I think is the perfect amount, quite frankly, and so it gives us 10 non-conference games. And, our coaches, and I think rightly so, look at those games like those are games that we can go and win against other teams and other conferences. So you want to have enough of those games, because at the end of the year, it's all about the RPI and the pairwise. You want to have enough of those games to go beat some teams in other leagues. And I think 10's a good number to do that.
Steve, for those that aren't familiar with you, I'd just like to get a little on your background, how you became the Hockey East commissioner.
Yeah. I worked at the University of New Hampshire for a long time in the administration. So I'm sure you both know Dick Umili. He was my entree to college hockey when I first got to UNH as a young administrator. Wasn't long before Dick Umili took me under his wing and said, forget about everything else. Hockey's king here. Just stick close to me and I'll show you the ropes. So in my first year, UNH went to the Frozen Four. They actually went to the national championship game, lost in overtime to Maine. And so I said to coach, I go, Jesus, this, hockey's pretty easy. I came on board, all you did is win, and we went to the national championship game. And they just had a run there right after I started where they were having a lot of success, a couple Frozen Fours, every other year. And so, I kind of got ingrained in the college hockey world. And then I got involved with some NCAA committees, both on the women's side and on the men's side. And then Joe Britannia announced his retirement. And so obviously I was in the league, representing UNH. So I, knew all the, kind of inner workings of what was happening there. And we left the meeting at the end of the year, and a couple of the ADs said to me, hey, I think you'd be great in this spot, if you're interested, And so the process started, and as these search processes go, sometimes it takes a little while. So, I managed to come out the other end, and now, God, it seems like forever ago I was on campus, but it's been great.
That's awesome.
Commissioners are always looking to grow their brand. And I watched last weekend when Boston College played out at Michigan State Big Ten Network.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a relationship with Nesson. Do you envision the ability to potentially grow your brand even more with a larger TV package, Steve?
Yeah, so we have a package with ESPN. ESPN Plus obviously does all our men's and women's games. We do some a handful of men's and women's games on linear, ESPN linear channel every year, and then we have a NESN package. So I think we're really lucky in the regard that we have a regional network that is right in our geographic footprint. NESN is like their footprint is our footprint, and so being able to have that in addition to ESPN is something unique that we were able to do. But I have to tell you that ESPN is obviously the big brand, and I think our viewership. Well, I know our viewership numbers have increased exponentially. We're in year number 3 of our deal, and I think just being a partner with those guys, and when you go to the when you go on your TV or you go on your app and it's like the NHL, Hockey East, side by side, and that's a great affiliation, obviously, for us.
Nice. So before we let you go, I just want to, when you look forward, any new news on whether there'll be a Frozen Four within a Hockey East area?
Yeah. I don't think it's a secret that Boston's always going to be interested in hosting a Frozen Four. I think it was let me think now, in 22 that we hosted the last one, and which, I thought was a big success. I think there's 2 cities that are absolutely no-brainers that the NCAA is going to make sure they keep in the rotation: Boston and St. Paul, just because of it's so college hockey centric in both those communities. And both of those Frozen Fours, when they're in those sites, you're going to sell the tickets, no problem. Every other city, you got to do some work, a little bit of work, and maybe some places you got to work a little harder. We'd love to have it back as soon as we can. I know now that it's been announced for, I guess St. Louis is this year, then it's Vegas, and then it's I think it's DC, and then Chicago. So we wouldn't be able to get it 5 years from now, which seems like forever. But that's the way these processes work. Like they bid it years out. So I'm hopeful next time it's what would that be? 29? Jesus. 29. Hopefully, we're having another Frozen Four in Boston. But it's a great. It's just such a great. New England's such a great college hockey part of the country.
Yeah,
and, so it's great to have it here. It's like I always say to people, Boston is like a pro sports town, but when you get in the college space, like what part of the country are you going to find like college hockey is arguably number 1 over the other college sports?
That's with most of them ranked, and always in the picture for the title. Amazing.
So, Commissioner, it's a busy night for Hockey East tonight. You got Quinnipiac up in Orono, Maine.
Yeah.
You've got, UConn's playing at BU. You've got somebody going into UMass. You've got somebody going into BC. AIC's going into BC. You got UNH playing Merrimack. And then you got Northeastern, where I am right now, playing at Denver University.
Yeah.
What's a commissioner do on a night like this? Who are you watching?
Well, so this is a great question. So usually I would go to a game on a Friday and Saturday for sure, but tonight I watched a couple of women's games we had in the afternoon. I'll kind of bounce back and forth a little bit tonight, which is not usually what I do. It's nice to go to a rink and see a game in person, but Pierre, some of these games, big non-conference games that we have, I mean. I'm always watching those really closely because I know how important they are. And, if we can get, results up in Orono or out in Denver, against, high profile opponents, that's, really, really helps. It's just all math at the end of the day, but, but I will say this, like one thing that I really enjoyed at the beginning of the year is if I can go and see a non-conference game where I can cheer for a team, that's really fun, because most of the time it's conference games and I'm sitting on the fence neutral, obviously. Yeah. But sometimes you look at the schedule, like, what, they're playing a non-conference opponent. Like if Denver was at Northeastern this weekend, I'd go to one of those games for sure.
Yeah. Right.
And it's just fun to cheer for the team, and I'm like, getting excited to support one of our teams. So that's fun sometimes, and it just doesn't happen very often until you get to the end of the year, and then you can just be, all in on hockey all the time.
Jimmy, I'm going to file a report to the commissioner and to Brian Murphy. If the officiating's bad, I'm not going to blame Brian. He'll be happy. And if Northeastern wins, I'll email the commission. He'll be really excited. So it'll all be good.
It's interesting. Like, I think we've got a good group of officials, and obviously, you guys know Murph. He's absolutely the best. And it is. Sometimes I smile when our coaches come back from like a non-conference game, and they're like, "Oh my God! Like, I can't wait to get the East officiating."
Hey, just so you have some intel on this, Commish, when Brian Murphy was a neophyte official as a linesman, I was coaching the league, and he missed a couple offsides, and Scotty Bowman and I were working together, and I know Scotty gave it to him pretty good, and I said, "Hey, Brian, don't worry, I'll take care of it." And then I become the head coach in Hartford, and Brian missed a couple more, and I started saying that Bowman was right and you were wrong.
I'll tell you the thing about Murph. Like, he's forgotten more about officiating than just about anyone, but he's a straight shooter with the coaches, and they got a lot of respect for him, and that just goes a long way. Like, he just knows more than the person he's talking to, and if he thinks it's right or wrong, like, he's probably right.
Yeah, and Jimmy, just so the listeners at home know, Brian Murphy was not just a linesman in the league, and he was really good at that. He was also a referee in the NHL, and people forget that. I mean, this is an unbelievably talented guy. It's hard to be a linesman. It's harder to be a referee, and he did both. So he deserves a lot of credit.
Great personality too, for sure. Good guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hall of Famer now. Yeah, we went into the
U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. You're
That's right. That's right. Well, Steve, we appreciate you taking the time, and we really look forward to seeing you over in Belfast. We'll have to get you down to the Hart Bar for an interview there, eh?
Yep, that sounds fantastic. I know exactly where it is.
All right.
Thanks, Commissioner. Take care. Thanks a lot, Commissioner.
All right. Thanks for take care of yourself.
Commissioner Steve Metcalf joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Seems like a great guy. That's the first time I actually talked to him.
Hey, Jimmy, the truth of the matter is their conference is booming. It's exploding.
Yeah.
The caliber of play, the players that are coming and filtering through, we're talking about first overall picks like it's nothing. People would love that. What about Jack Eichel, who was a number 2? What about Brady Tkachuk, who was a number 4? What about Paul Correa, who was a number 5? I mean, you start looking at all the guys that have come out of Hockey East. It's unbelievable.
Pierre, I was thinking about it after I spoke to him on the way back home today, and I'm just thinking when I'm a kid. So I'm going to be 50 in 3 weeks.
Damn, you're old, Jimmy.
I'm feeling it. I know I shouldn't say that to you, but you're in way better shape than me, Pierre. I got to start getting on the Pierre McGuire routine. But anyhow, I remember growing up, and like, if a player from around here, I went to a lot of college hockey games, a lot of BC, because I came from a BC family. And if a player from like a BC or a Maine or something, somebody made it to the pros and became a popular player, like a house, it was a huge thing. Because it didn't happen as often. And now it's just, like you're saying, it's just so common. Like, they're just producing pro after pro after pro. And it's amazing. And so many players want to go there and play. That's the biggest thing.
I'm fortunate. My son's part of this Northeastern situation. I walked into the hotel today where the team is, and you should see it's just like an NHL environment.
Yeah.
There's nothing different. The only difference is that guys are getting paid and other guys aren't.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing when you see the behavior of the players, the intensity of the strength and conditioning people, the traveling people to make sure the food's being served on time. It's pretty. It wasn't like this when I coached in college.
No,
I can tell you. And we had 11 guys that ended up playing pro hockey from 2 of the teams I was part of at St. Lawrence. Like, that's a lot of guys, Jimmy. That's a lot of guys. But we didn't run it like these guys run it. They're way better than what we did. 100% better.
It's unreal how far they've come. And you just, in college hockey in general, Pierre, I mean, we've had this discussion. Now you look at it, their junior players are going to want to come down, and they're going to be able to do that. So we should ask them about that. I forgot, but
no, you'll have enough time with them over in
Belfast. We will. Looking forward to that.
How was Sarah, by the way, today?
Sarah Stanton of Car Travel was wonderful. She gives her regards, and she was very excited there. A lot of people. She seemed to know everybody there. She's calling him the mayor. I'd say she was the mayor of this thing we were at today. So it was great being there with her. And like I said, we got to talk to Marty Walsh, and A lot of hockey fans, people coming up to me saying we're listening to the eye test, which always feels nice.
That's nice.
So it's great. It was good.
I got a text from Stevie Thornton today, the general manager of the Belfast Giants. And,
we'll be getting him on shortly.
Yeah, and Stevie asked me to speak at an event there on Friday before the teams actually play their first game. So I told him I would do that. But again, it's the enthusiasm of the event is building, Jimmy, unbelievably. You know, it's, you know how you were talking about people are coming up to you. I'm walking around, you know, in my neighborhood in Boston, and, you know, there's some younger people, there's some older people.
Yeah.
And it's I live in a neighborhood. I don't live in the suburbs. We live in a neighborhood.
Yep.
And people are coming up saying, hey, you know, I heard about the Friendship Four, and, you know, you and Jimmy are going over. I'm like, yeah, we're going over. Yeah. But the enthusiasm just keeps snowballing, which is really exciting. It's really exciting.
It is. Actually, my friend Jet, his sons know about it now. Like kids, they're like 10 and 12, I believe. So, I mean, it's like the kids are starting to get excited and want to watch that as well. So good for them. I'm really looking forward to it. We're very appreciative of Sarah Stanton having us over there. And we will have more on that as we get closer. We're going to start to get more guests on Campus Friday. And then, of course, when we're in the Heart Bar, Pierre, that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it will be amazing. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, me too. You know, we just got to figure out what we're going to do for dinner in Dublin on Monday. But I have a pretty good idea because I know a few good spots.
Yeah, you know what Sarah told me too? I'm good. You know, I'm celiac, which is a pain sometimes. But she said it's the best place. Ireland is the best place in the world to be.
There's a couple places, as most people know now that have listened to the show. My daughter lives and works in Dublin right now, and so she's kept up on most of that pretty good.
Beautiful.
She's got us set up. We're good.
All right, we're going to be good. All right, let's go right now to our wonderful sponsors. I think I'm 2 and 3 now with my sick pick of the week, or sick pick of the night rather. But let's tell you about Betway before I give you that pick. Because they are the leading global sponsor, online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. If you're watching right now, you can join right there with that QR code right in front of you. If not, you can just go to betway.com. And remember, always bet responsibly, and you must be 18 plus. Pierre, my sick pick of the day, or of the night rather, today, with Betway. I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Carolina Hurricanes. Pittsburgh's coming off a big win, but we know that they've kind of been a roller coaster team so far. I'm liking Carolina in the first period. I think Pittsburgh gets a little ahead of themselves, maybe riding a little too high after an emotional win the other night. I like the Hurricanes to go in there, take the puck line in the first period, have a good start. I'm not saying they'll win, but I think they have a good start.
Good.
You know?
I only listen. I don't.
You don't do gambling.
I don't react.
But let me ask you this, though. I mean, given that Pittsburgh has been such a roller coaster, they're riding a high now. That's one of the things I would think Mike Sullivan is asking them to focus on is stay level and live in the moment, and not get too high or too low, because they seem like they have those swoons up and down.
With a lot of teams, I think your point is relevant. With that team, with Crosby almost 40 years old, Malkin almost 40 years old, Letang, mid-30s, Erik Karlsson, getting to his mid-30s. There's a lot of veteran guys there. Riley Smith's an older guy. Brian Rust is over 30. So I think with a lot of teams, you'd say yes. I think with that team, yeah, especially with Sid. They did their thing the other night. With Sid and Malkin getting those momentous point totals, and really special for both of them. And by the way, before David Savard, Jimmy, from Montreal. Now I'm
that's right. 800 games last night.
800 games. When I heard that last night, I remember watching the kid play in Moncton. He was a Canadian Major Junior Defenseman of the Year, and he was going to be good. He was
racking up points then too, right?
Tons of points, huge points. And you see what he had to do to last in the NHL? He had to change the way he played.
We talked about Hal Gill the other day. There you go.
He had it, and I thought of that when your Hal Gill stuff, and I was thinking about that last night when I heard that it was his 800th game, and I'm like, what an amazing accomplishment, because I can tell you right now, he had to change. Yeah. He wasn't lasting in the league. If it was just about points, he wasn't lasting in the league.
It was interesting. Somebody had a question for Marty Walsh today, kind of on a similar topic there, saying, why are we seeing so many veterans get phased out right now, whether it's a cap or whether it's youth? He said, well, first of all, your body, you can't tell your body when it's going to go. It just happens. But when he's talking about how all these young players are coming up, And I thought about our conversation as well, where it's like these guys have no choice. If you want to survive and you want to get that extra 3 years, because of all the young skill coming in right now and how cheap they can be for their first 2 to 3 years, you got to reinvent yourself. And that's what a Savard did. That's what a Hal Gill did. And it's great to see when a player does that. So good for him.
Yep, I agree. I couldn't agree more. Charlie Coyle's a guy like that.
Yep.
Charlie
That's a great example. Yeah. And he got his first goal of the season the other night, got the monkey off his back against Colorado. All right, next question. Our first question. Ken Walker, with all the Canadiens injuries over the last 4 years, and they seem to be ramping up again, do you have any theories as to why the Habs have so many injuries?
No, except I'll say this. They thought it was the trainer's fault. So they got rid of, a really good trainer.
Yeah.
And they brought in Jimmy Ramsey. And Jimmy's there, and Jimmy worked in New York for years and years and years. He worked in Winnipeg for years and years and years. So it's not about the trainers.
Yeah.
It's not about the trainers. It's not about the doctors. This is just some bad luck. I don't think there's any theory you can put to it. I'll give you an example. Caden Gooley got hurt last night. Adrian Kempe hit him from behind. Like, I don't know how that, what are you going to do?
Yeah. It's tough to watch, but one thing is at least they're learning this young how to deal with it in this adversity.
Yeah, and by the way, and I should have said his name, and I apologize. Graham Reinben was a trainer that got, replaced in Montreal by Jim, and Graham had been there over 20 years.
Yeah,
and I was around when he started, and I'll just tell you right now, that guy was a pro.
Oh, he's
big
great,
time pro.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with it. They were probably trying to change what was going on. But you can see it hasn't made a difference.
Bad luck. It's bad luck.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Max R, they've talked about adding games in the regular season, but wouldn't that increase risk of injury, which already is a problem?
I'd rather a guy get hurt in a regular season game than a preseason game. I'll tell you that right now.
I was literally just going to say that. At least it's not for nothing. So,
yeah.
All right, next question. Randy Workman. What's up, Randy? Rather obvious the Flames are grossly inadequate at center. Jimmy and Pierre, do you have any options on Calgary can fix this?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, Nazem Kadri, even though they won the other night, he knows he can be better. Naz knows he can be better. I'm going to tell you something, Randy, and I don't know if they're thinking about it in Calgary or not, but Matt Coronado, he played center most of his career at Harvard.
I was going to ask you this, Pierre, because
and
Pierre
so,
LeBrun brought this up yesterday on Insider Trading that they're looking for a center. I think it was either him or Drager.
Well, I'm sure they are looking for a center. But one of the things I can tell you, because I watched Matt play for 2 years at Harvard and at the Salisbury School, and in the World Junior, and my son had to play head to head against them a lot. And Matt Coronado is a really good center. I'm just going to tell you right now. And I don't know if they don't want him to play center in Calgary, but internally, I think they got a guy that can do it.
Right. And I kind of look at it like, Pierre, I was talking to Don Waddell today about his team and kind of similar situation. It's kind of like I said, you got a ton of cap money now. You've got some guys that are hurt. Would you explore externally or you kind of want to give the young kids a chance? And he immediately said, no, we want to give the young kids a chance.
Yeah,
I mean, if all of a sudden later in the season we're in the mix, then that's going to come in handy. But and I kind of look at Calgary the same. They're going to look internally, I think.
Hey, do you remember that kid Christensen I told you about?
Oh,
Check out his point totals, okay? This is ridiculous. I still don't get it. Like, I was watching him in the American League, and I'm going, when's he getting called up? Like, this guy's too good for the league. He needs to be called up. And they would never call him up.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. But did Donnie say anything to you about Buffalo?
No, but we got into mostly stuff about him and then obviously Gaudreau and their team. But, yeah, Buffalo, Pierre. It's getting worse and worse.
They're gonna.
We're not even in November. I hate being like.
No, I'm with you. We talked about it. You cannot go through 10-game segments with only one win.
No, and the way they're losing, Pierre, the way they're losing is even worse.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. And we're getting close to the 10-game margin for them. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, like I'm looking at. There's a lot of bad habits going on the ice right now for that team. So, all right, next question. A to Z me. MSL is starting to feel a little heat from fans and media. What changes would you guys make to wake up a sleepy group of players? The team lacks any real purpose on the ice, in my opinion. A to Z me, I totally get your frustration. And look, I kind of felt like They talking about wanting to be in the mix, Pierre. All right. Well, when you're going to start to publicly say that, the scrutiny is going to go up, the pressure is going to go up. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, and we'll see how they respond.
You should have heard the intensity of some of the callers on the post-game show last night that I worked on. And you know what? I understood why they were so upset.
Yeah.
I watched the same game they did.
I know.
And so, well, I said a couple things, A to Z me. One is they've got to fix their entries on the power play. It's really important. Two, I think they got to rethink the Kirby Doc thing right now. I think it's too much too soon for him. Maybe drop him back a little bit in the lineup. And I do think he'll get it back on track. It's just right now it's not happening for him. They're obviously having some injury situations right now, which is a little bit of a problem. Face-off play needs to be better at key times in games. Dvorak, that was a big face-off loss last night.
Yeah.
On the Eglin goal, which put him up 3-1, put LA up 3-1. Can't do that. That's why that kid's there. So they've got some internal stuff, just attention to detail stuff they got to work out. They're going to have to work out
the starts. I thought Pierre was a big one you pointed out earlier too. They got to have better starts,
the starts for sure.
Especially when you're playing a team coming in from playing the night before. So, all right, next question. Sound the siren. Is Buffalo in trouble? We just, 2 questions ago, we pretty much said that. Sound the siren.
Jimmy, Sound the Siren's a hell of a podcast from down in Carolina. Just so you know, those guys do a really good job. And I'm
gonna say it should be a podcast in Buffalo right now because they need to sound the siren.
They need to sound the siren for sure.
Like the storm.
Here's what I'd say about Buffalo. I think they have enough names on paper to make themselves competitive. Now they have to do it. Mm-hmm. It's enough of them saying, we're this young group or this young group. No, stop it.
Yeah. Well, Pierre, I'm going to be honest. I mean, here's where I see it headed. We've discussed this before. We've already ruled out. There's not going to be a coaching change. He just came in there.
No, it shouldn't be a coaching change.
I could understand if there was changes up above, and I don't want to see anyone lose their jobs, but I could see it happen. I still don't see that happening. I see this going to a shake-up trade. Like, let's shake this locker room up right now and hold everybody accountable. And somebody's going to be a sacrificial lamb. That's the way I see it going there.
And okay, so I would agree with you. I do think though eventually there will be a shake-up trade if this doesn't get going.
But I can't figure out who.
If they do it, they better not miss.
Exactly.
I'm just telling you, they better not miss. Because when you miss, and I'm going to give you an example. Hartford wanted everybody watching this. It's easy to go look it up. In 1991, they wanted to shake the tree, and they traded Alfie Samuelson and Ronnie Francis and Grant Jennings to the Hartford Whalers. John Cullen, the late Zarley Zalapsky, and Jeff Parker went to Hartford. You go look at where one franchise went, and go look at where the other franchise went, and it was because of one trade.
Yep.
So if you're going to do that, like Hartford tried to do it, you better make sure you get it right. And if you don't get it right, you're in big trouble.
That's when, what you always preach, Pierre, and you're so right, is nobody should know your players better than you. Know your players. And that's a situation where they better know exactly not just who that player is, what he does on the ice, but what he encompasses in that dressing room. Yep. So, all right, next question. Postnet on 30. Generally speaking, why do NHL goalies play so deep in the net instead of coming out to eliminate the angle? That's a great question. It's interesting you brought that up, Postnet, because the other night I think it was a Florida game, the afternoon game, Bruins Florida Monday, and I remember Swayman coming way out, and I'm like, what is he doing? He never does that, and he gave up a goal. I don't know. I mean, you're right. You don't see these younger goalies do that as much anymore as we saw it before. When we were younger. So
I think part of it is back in the day, you used to have to wind up to take a shot so the goalie can predict it more coming out because of the wind up.
But now with
these guys don't have to wind up anymore because of science. Yeah. Modern science has created these sticks. They're absolute weapons. They really are.
All right, next question. You got any more?
Oh, yeah.
Fishy. Hey guys, quick question before I drive off from work and listen to you on replay. Is Jack Guy playing on his toes, or is he who he is mistake-making defense? Is he a mistake-making defenseman?
Yeah, no. So he's not playing on his toes. he's getting caught a lot flat-footed. He got caught last night in one play. He got taken on his offside to the net. He even, to his credit, though, Arber's pretty solid this way. He said, look, I'm not playing really well. I got to be better. And I'm paraphrasing, but basically that's what he said. Yeah. And he's right. He needs to be better.
Yep. And it's good for a young kid to acknowledge that and understand it. All right, next question. Ken Walker, with the dismal faceoff percentage that the Habs centers, can wingers have any impact on faceoff percentages, or is the stat completely dependent on the center winning the faceoff cleanly themselves?
Faceoffs are 5 guys committed to winning the puck. It's not one guy. Now, sometimes you're going to get guys who are going to win them clean. That's a Bergeron. Those are the elite. Sidney Crosby. Those are the elite guys around the league. Kopitar. You know, there's some guys that just that win it clean. You know, the Sasha Barkov's another one that comes to mind. Jordan Stahl in Carolina. There's some guys who are just really gifted when it comes to take Guy Carbonneau for the longest time in Montreal. Brenda Moore when he was in his prime in Philadelphia and Carolina. McTavish, remember Craig McTavish? He was really good on faceoff. So there's certain guys that they're just really good. They don't need as much support. But if you're not a team that's very good on faceoffs, Jimmy, it's really important to have a plan. Yeah. You have a plan for retrieval. And if you don't have a plan for retrieval, you're going to get scorched every night. And I think that's kind of happening with Montreal.
I do too.
In their own zone. I think that's kind of happening.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that too, because I saw some of the comments on social, people going off on certain individuals, the centers taking the faceoffs, but I thought the same thing as you, Pierre. I'm like, well, it's a team thing. They got to help them and back them up. So
yeah, it's a team stat for sure.
Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, what do you think the NHL has to do to eliminate the touch and grab game?
I don't really think it's you want me to show you tape from the 1980s and 90s? Oh, man. I don't know about that one. And I like Randy's stuff.
Bad now, Randy. And that's no disrespect to you. Yeah.
I don't know. The red line coming out really took that away. Zero tolerance on obstruction really took that away. Yeah. The one thing I'd like to see that would eliminate some injuries is get rid of the trapezoid, because a lot of these defensemen, nobody can hold up for them. And these forwards are coming so fast right now. And the defensemen are just getting pulverized.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
So if I wouldn't take the trapezoid out so the goalies can go out and play the puck, because it's just too dangerous for some of these defensemen.
All right, next question. Evan McLaren, Jimmy, you laying any bets on the Ducks-Avs game tonight? Well, that was actually, I was either between that or what I gave you. I like the Ducks tonight, just so you know. I'm big, and we're high in the Ducks, not just gambling-wise. Pierre and I are high in the Ducks just win-wise. We think they're going to improve a lot this year. I like what we've seen so far from them. Yep. By the way, Pierre, credit, we'll talk about it next week, but Trevor Zegras is playing better two-way hockey so far. I don't know if you noticed.
No, I've noticed, but I think part of that is message sent and message received. Sent.
Exactly. So good on Greg Cronin and the coaching staff there in Anaheim. All right, next question. Max R, is Marty too nice on the guys? Are the players playing? Are they too comfortable? I'm not in that dressing room. I'm not covering that team enough to really comment on that. But from afar, I mean, you could see he was definitely the first couple of years a player's guy, right? But I don't feel comfortable commenting on it. I just don't know that dressing room enough right now.
So I'm really happy you gave that answer, because if you hadn't, I was going to blast you.
I know.
Unless you're in the dressing room every day, you're in no position to answer that. And players are not going to talk about that. Yeah. And if they do, shame on them. Yeah. That's taboo. But if you're around covering the team and you see practices and you see the way the players interact, you can tell. But in this case, we're in no position to make a comment on that.
And one thing too, I mean, just, when you're like Pierre said, when you're around the coach, a press conference after a practice is a lot more honest, I feel, Pierre, than after a game. You're rushed after the game. You want to get out of it. So you get a better vibe about what a coach is thinking about a player at that time when you're there. But even now, I wouldn't even do this for the Bruins, because in my opinion, I haven't been to enough practices or games yet, Pierre. So once I am back in that regular routine, I'll do that.
Right? I'll do it when a coach or a GM will tell me, like, we've been kicking. Yeah. We've been hard on guys, and here's why we've been hard on guys. We talked about Zegras last year, and I had the honor of coaching Pat Verbeek, and I was really hard on him. Trust me, dude. I was hard on him. And
there he became probably one of the Cardinals.
He didn't like it at the time, but I think he realizes it now.
Wow.
But here's what I tell you. They were hard on that kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very comfortable saying that. They were really hard on that kid. And, you look where he is now.
Great call. Not called him out, but I mean, he said he had very real comments on our podcast last year.
He's starting to come.
Yeah.
And good for him.
Yep. It's interesting too. Imagine if he does and he eventually becomes that two-way player they can see, Pierre. How happy are they going to be that they didn't move him? Because they had
Jimmy, I don't know about the two-way stuff, but I do know this. He can compete harder for loose pucks. And I think he's doing that this year. I really do.
Going for that more too.
Yeah, no. He's sacrificing his body, which is really good.
All right, next question.
Yep.
Ken Walker again. Do you think Ovechkin can play until he's 42? That's when I think he'll be able to break Gretzky's record. I don't know how.
I think he can play as long as he wants because he's such a big, strong guy, and he's really never had concussion problems.
Yeah,
he's never had huge injury problems. Go look at his games played; it's just amazing, and he's always been a targeted player. Again, I'm going to go back to it. When they had Backstrom there and they had Oshie there, that power play was way different. And even when they had Kuznetsov there, they don't have Kuznetsov, they don't have Backstrom, they don't have Oshie.
Backstrom's the one, Pierre.
It's just
he misses Backstrom so much.
Yeah, it's just a different deal.
That's not knocking Ovi. That's just the truth.
Yeah, it's just a different deal. So I don't know if he'll be able to do it or not. But the truth is that I think that coach Spencer Carberry, it didn't start well. Jimmy, it did not start well for him last year, boy. It did not.
It came on.
Boy, did it finish well. And now he had the ability to stay past his first year. So he implemented all these strategies and structures that he wants in place. Mm-hmm. And now the guys see, what, it actually works.
Yeah,
it works.
That's what I said, Pierre.
I'm happy for him. I'm really happy for him. He's a good coach. He's a very good coach.
I'd like to get a Capitals and Flames related guest next week because I think there's a lot.
We should get Carberry. We should get Carberry on for sure. And
get Eric Francis, maybe.
And Huska's done such a good job.
We can get Husker. I'd love that.
We can get him. But
all right,
those are two guys we should because they're both coaching their butts off and they're doing a really good job. They're doing a really good job.
All right, next question. Postnet on 30. Again, generally speaking, has a slap shot goal disappeared with so little time and space available?
Well, there's still slap shot goals.
There is.
And you know what? There's more time and space now than there ever was. And that's because of zero tolerance on obstruction. There's no hooking and holding. And the stretch pass opens a lot of things up. Yep. So actually there's more room. And people don't want to admit to it, but there's more room. Ask the goalies. There's more room.
I'm glad he brought that up here. I'm just thinking here off the top, we talk about all the players like a Bobby Orr or somebody or Gretzky, what they would have done without the red line, right? Just because of their skating ability. But think about what you just said and the other effects it has. And what would Al McGinnis or Al Iafrate have done now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've talked to Mario about this and I've told him, I said, I would have loved to have coached you without the red line. Yeah. It would have been an amazing privilege to do that. But could you imagine?
He would have hit 200 points.
Oh, yeah, he would have.
Easy.
100% he would have. And I'll tell you one other player, Jimmy, that you didn't say, and there's so many. But this is for the people in Vancouver and the people in New York and the people in Florida. Pavel Bure, without the red line.
Oh, my gosh.
Buckle up, man.
Wow. He doesn't get enough love. He's one of my favorite players growing up.
Well, he's in the Hall of Fame, but
I know.
Pavel Bure in his prime without the red line. I tried drawing up game plans to stop him. I had to do it.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, do you feel that goalies losing some of the goalie equipment has anything to do with the offensive explosion this year?
No.
Yeah. I don't.
No. I just think malarkey. They've been over large for too long. And here's what I've said this to Jimmy. Part of why the offense has the edge over the defense right now, we don't teach defense in the offseason. All we do is teach skills and skills and skills and skills. Well, defense is a skill, but we don't teach it. You know why? Because it's boring. It's no fun. And guys don't want to do it in the middle of July, but they love to dangle and they love to shoot and they love to score and they love to scrimmage. So that's partly on all of us to do this skill development stuff. And I'm guilty as charged.
Different culture too than it was when we were growing up.
And people that play D don't get paid as much as people that score.
Yep. That is true. Next question. GB, Pierre and Jimmy, any news on the league changing the rules and equity with state taxes and advantages it gives certain teams? I'm guessing GB's asking that because of the Ottinger contract the other day. There's a lot of people thinking he probably would have got more in another city, but because of the tax. No, I've been told straight up there's nothing.
No, I've been told straight up by the decision makers. No, it's an accounting nightmare for trades and everything else.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it is what it is. All right, next question.
Hey, you know what? It should be
tax players. I'll tell you that.
Work on your politicians to get them to change the tax laws wherever you live.
There you go.
It's better for everybody.
Wink, wink, Quebec. All right, next question. Evan McLaren, going way back. What do you guys know about the effort to fund the NHL? How they found the NHLPA, I think is what you're saying. I read that Harvey and Lindsay faced a lot of pressure as labor leaders. I wonder what the political climate was around that.
Well, Ted Lindsay did for sure. He was traded out of Detroit. Mr. Lindsay, you no longer work here. That's what he was told. It's an interesting study actually.
Yeah.
The players are, Doug Harvey is one of them, obviously, and Ted Lindsay was a big one of them. They deserve a lot of credit, those guys. They really did a good job, and going forward, I think Trevor Linden, I thought, did some really good work.
Yeah.
The PA when he was involved, and there are a lot of guys that are on that committee. Glenn Healy, I'll tell you what, Jimmy, Glenn Healy and Pat Flatley have done really good work.
Yep.
Really good work for the NHLPA. Ron Hainsey does really good work. There are a lot of players that have done some really good work for the PA.
And you know what? I'm told that they're doing more and more now, too, is educating the younger players about people like Ted Lindsay and Doug Harvey and the origin of the PA and how, those that paved the way for them. Because I don't think enough players have known that all along. And
they just take it for granted. They take it for granted. It's not their fault. It's just like everything else.
Exactly. But when they learn it, they're like, wow, really?
Yeah, no, it's true. I always had, Jimmy, I always had this idea, Jimmy, and I know people are probably going to say, okay, he's kooky. But this is my idea. I think every team should have a written history, not a complicated 300-page tome that's impossible to read. Mm-hmm. Like a Cliff's Notes version of the history of your team. And when every guy comes to rookie camp, there's one in his stall. And when every guy comes to the start of training camp, there's one in his stall.
Love it.
And so everybody needs to know why their organization is like it is, who the players were that helped build the way for this organization to be great. Who were the coaches? Who are the owners?
Yep.
Let people, I think it's wrong to say this, but I think a lot of people take it for granted that they're in the league. And then when they're out of the league, they don't take it for granted anymore.
No, I'm with you in that, Pierre. And I'm glad you said that because I've been noticing that. Obviously, the Bruins are celebrating their centennial, and that will conclude on December 1st against the Habs in Boston. But over the last year, I've spoken to players directly about this, Pierre, like younger guys who's just like, I didn't realize all the history. Like, this is amazing what I'm part of. And it does. It gives them more pride to wear that crest. I'll tell you that. I'm not trying to be corny or cliche, but it does. It gives them more pride to be part of an organization like that. So I think that's a great idea.
And I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm not going to tell you the player's name. We were practicing in Montreal.
This when you were in Pittsburgh or Hartford?
This one I was in Hartford, and we played because it was the old Adams division. You were there for Quebec and Boston and Montreal. You were there a fair bit. Oh, yeah. Okay. The Adams division wasn't a nice place to live. And because it was so tough. It was so darn tough. Anyways, we were there an extra day. So we were there 2 days in Montreal. The first day we get there, we're having a really brisk, hard, intense practice. And I went up to one of my players who was playing really well at the time. And I said, I got to tell you, you remind me of the Rocket. He looks at me. Who's the Rocket? And I smiled at him. I said, you're kidding, right? He goes, Coach, I have no idea who the Rocket is. No. So I don't know if you'd ever been in the Forum, Jimmy, but at ice level, when you came off the benches, it was padded, so you didn't ruin your skates. You could walk down. And at one entry point at the Forum, there were all these oil paintings of Montreal Canadiens greats. Jean Beliveau was up there.
I'd never been. I never got
So
there.
Jean Beliveau was up there. Doug Harvey was up there. All the greats. The pictures were up there. So Rocket Richard was up there. So I grabbed them and I said, "Come with me." And I pointed at the oil painting because I was in skates. He was in skates. I said, "That's the Rocket." Read about him. That's the Rocket.
That's great.
And then I don't know, probably 2 or 3 days later, he came up and he goes, "Now I kind of get it."
Yeah.
I kind of get it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm with you. That'd be a great idea. I think teams definitely should do that, Pierre. All right, next question. Evan McLaren, how well do you guys feel players know hockey history these days? What percentage of the players can name, say, that's great follow-up there, Evan, say Eddie Shore?
I think a lot would say Eddie Shore because of Slapshot.
Yeah.
There isn't a player playing in the league.
Old-time hockey?
Yeah, old-time hockey. Eddie Shore, Toe Blake, old-time hockey. And then on old-time hockey. So I would say Eddie Shore wouldn't be a difficult one. And anybody from New England, because they've played in Springfield before where Eddie was legendary, they would know who Eddie Shore was. But I think there are other names like, I don't know, Henri Richard. What's his nickname? I hope a kid would be able to say the Pocket Rocket, but they probably wouldn't. What was John Beliveau's nickname? Le Gros Bill. I don't know if people would know that or not, So I wish they'd know more about the history.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, Worsley, not a lot of people understand the character he was, Or the Gumper. All right, next question.
The Gumper.
Danko, Pierre, should MSL wait a few more weeks to juggle forward lines to try and find chemistry, or should he turn the blender on soon? What goes through a coach's mind on weighing that decision? Thanks, guys.
Good question. Coaches think about it a lot, and they think about it in the game. They think about it during practice. They think about it a lot. I would just say this, Jimmy. I would think about doing it probably right after the Islander game. He may roll it or change it up a little bit going into that game. But you got to remember, Islanders are coming back from a trip. They just got shut out in St. Louis. They lost the game 1-0. So, I would say that they're probably going to go down with the same lineup and try to play angry. And after that, if it doesn't work, then I think you probably start to look to change your lineup a little bit.
We shall see. And GB saying his parents played golf with the Gumper. There we go. Love it.
That's awesome.
That must have been a fun experience.
That's awesome.
That was so fun interviewing him back in the day. All right. Well, listen, we want to thank Steve Metcalf, the commissioner of the Hockey East, for joining us here on Campus Friday on the eye test. And thanks to our crew up in Montreal and to the Friendship Fours. You see, we got their own little emblem down there. You'll see it on the right of your screen, the bottom right corner. We're going to have more Friendship Four guests coming on soon. Looking forward to that. Pierre, enjoy Denver. Best of luck to Ryan in Northeastern. And if I get those restaurant suggestions, I will send them along.
Send them. Them. I'm about to talk to our good buddy Melnick, so I don't know what he's going to send me, but it'll be.
He's always got good suggestions. You'll probably end up.
He always does. He's amazing. Jimmy, great week. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Everybody, stay safe. Enjoy the hockey. Enjoy some of the college football. Enjoy some of the pro football, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Sounds good. We'll see you there on the eye test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the eye test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.